it was something like
Violet.
lavender rose bullshit. And I was like, that sounds terrible.
It doesn't sound good to
No
me.
wonder nobody's happy in the royal family. Get some caramel, be a person.
It's time to take A Therapeutic Dose, a prescription-strength reality TV podcast that explores the intersection of reality TV and therapy. Possible side effects may include entertainment, strong emotional reactions, and/or laughter. Here are your hosts, Ramona Ramirez and Margie McGee.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Therapeutic Dose, where we meet at the intersection of reality TV and therapy. I am Margie McGee, and with me, as always, is my dear friend and co-host.
Hello, I am Ramona Ramirez, and I'm very glad to be here, and I'm very glad to see you.
You too.
Thank you.
We were talking before we got online about like medication changes and neurodivergency and things of this nature, and I forgot to mention, did you see all this stuff that came out with? Okay.
I did, and yes.
Yeah, so Tamra decided to go, I guess because, she's starting to notice that she's really not coming off great this season on Orange County. So I imagine that's what motivated her going on her podcast, Two Teas in a Pod, to weep and confess to Teddy that she had one appointment with one therapist for 1 hour or 2 hours. And she was diagnosed as being on the spectrum. And of course, the entire Bravo community and medical community at large was like, no, that's not how that works. And you don't get to do that. And it's also not something to like cry about. It's like, it's just whatever. If you were actually diagnosed as on the spectrum, there's plenty of ways to manage it and plenty of ways that it doesn't need to be managed. It can just be something to know about yourself. So Tamra quickly came on the next day and was like, actually, I spoke too soon. I'm not sure if it's a diagnosis. They just mentioned I might have some qualities. But she was saying, like, in the first episode when she was crying, she's like, that's why I have no empathy. And like, I notice I'm sensitive to sounds and lights and stimuli. I'm like, are you kidding? The whole Tres Amigas show is an assault to anyone on the spectrum. It's all whooping and screaming and shrieking and come on, dude. So
Yes.
I'm glad she quickly got cut off at the knees on this one because good Lord, how embarrassing.
I saw that headline, and before I even clicked on it to read it, like my panic just shot up through my body. I was concerned, and my first thought was, oh no, no. Regardless of whether or not, after she has more assessments, if she is on the autism spectrum disorder, great. I and a lot of other people, thank God, thankfully, diagnoses, mental health diagnoses, neurodivergent diagnoses are never an excuse for her behavior. I often, there are things that I could, some of my behavior, especially this week, my ADHD was just, it made my life unbearable. And I never just say to Josh, like, well, I have ADHD. It's too bad. Like, live with it. Deal. It's like, yes, if the behaviors that I have that stem from my ADHD cause havoc in my home, whether it's a tiny ripple or full on havoc, it doesn't matter. That's not an excuse. It doesn't mean it's just never an excuse. The way that Tamra, it felt like she was coming at us with an excuse.
She
for what?
was unapologetically. It was
right.
shocking. It was gross.
Flagrant.
Irresponsible. I used that word last week with the mammogram panic. And I'm like, come on, dude. You can't.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
I'm glad that it did not get any
I am too.
traction. I'm glad that it was immediately.
Reddit was pissed.
Oh, really? Yeah, good.
Reddit was enraged. Reddit didn't even want to have the discussions about it. Like when people would post it, because, people will come in and they'll post things, like, hey, did everyone see that Tamra just said that she's on the autism spectrum disorder spectrum? And people were just like, we're not even going to discuss this.
Especially because it was just, she clearly has no understanding of like mental health at all. Like, if to even suggest that after one sit down with one person, it doesn't sound like any tests were administered. It just sounds like, I don't know. It really did feel like a PR move. However, she did talk about, I just along the lines of like everyone should be in therapy. She did talk about through her tears, it was all performative, but I believed some of it where she said that she's sick of Shannon's victim act because when she was a kid, she just had to like suck it up and deal. And there was so much to deal with and nobody was there to help her. So it really bothers me when people assume, or lay prone expecting to be helped. But Emily's talked about that too. Like, that's not an uncommon experience. And you can still be like a decent, productive, kind human being. You don't have to be destructive and just vile. She's so awful.
She's truly awful. I noticed in this episode, the main theme was, and I could so relate to this. Tamra said at some point, I believe towards the end of the episode, you could basically boil it down to, why does Shannon get to get away with this behavior and I don't?
Right. Exactly.
It was all, and that is such a big trigger for me. If I forgive this person's behavior, I'm condoning it. And so then I hold on to a resentment, or I can't let go of a hurt that they've done to me. It sucks. It is the most unsatisfying fact of life, is that regardless of how other people act, regardless of what other people can get away with, it doesn't mean that I get to do whatever I want because someone else does and no one is saying anything about it, or they're just getting away with it.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just woven through this episode. Two rights, two wrongs never make a right. And just because someone acts in a way that on, again, my concept of a cosmic scoreboard, it doesn't mean that I get to just do whatever they're doing, because it's still going to be me at the end of the day living with me. And how am I going to choose to live my life?
Yeah.
Man.
And it really is a look at like, I'm in the middle of a 4-step in one of my 10,000 12-step programs right now, where you look at your resentments. And so many of mine are so righteous. But looking at this, I see like, even if you have a righteous resentment, you wind up like Tamra. You wind up gossiping and trying to take other people down. Your life becomes, Jen said it best, she becomes weirdly obsessed with other people in an effort to work out, in her case, some childhood trauma shit. And I don't want to be an adult that does that, because that's crazy. The amount of like gossip and just true obsession with other people's purchases and lives and choices. And it just is how exhausting and how lame, and background checks. And like the whole thing is just like, I don't want to spend my time like that. And I know that that is the insidious slope of a resentment. It'll start from like a self-righteous place of like, I did the right thing, I deserve the right things, and these people are bad, so I'm going to work on punishing the bad people. And weirdly, before you know it, you're Tamra Judge probably running a background check and having opinions about how everyone spends, but like doing nothing proactive about anything. She just talks about people and luxuriates in her fucking filth.
Never in a million years do I want to be her. Yeah, and I don't want to be Heather. Again, like hanging out with Gina, Katie, and Emily seemed like the most, that would be the most compelling trio of that cast. Shannon, I find myself empathizing with her, but at the end of the day, her behavior is also completely unacceptable. And I would never tolerate it in a friend or a family member without some hardcore boundaries.
But what I see in Shannon is an effort to change, and it's fucking slow.
That is a great reminder,
the course
Margie.
of a cargo ship. Like, just because you turn the wheel doesn't mean the ship follows for another like year.
That's
but I
a very
see
good
Shannon
point.
really trying. And I sense her uncomfortable with her own behavior sometimes. And like, that's part of the process of growing out of it, is still doing it and being like, but I don't feel any better. And in fact, I feel worse. And now I have
Yeah.
this mess to clean up.
Oh, I could really relate to that this week. I
Yeah.
really could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little bit of what I've gone through this week is, I've been doing ketamine for over 2 years now. It helps with treatment-resistant depression. It can, and PTSD. PTSD, it's helped me with wildly. And so I recently, over the summer and then maybe about, 2 weeks ago, I was completely off of every medication I took for my depression and anxiety. And it really just the floodlight just I had anxiety through the roof. My ADHD anxiety and way that I kind of can navigate through the world, I felt like I had no tools this week at all. Not one resource inside of me to help me function as an adult. And I had an emergency Zoom with my psychiatrist, and after talking to my therapist and basically my anxiety and my ADHD and quite possibly a host of like perimenopausal symptoms, which include irritability, brain fog, lack of focus. Like my Venn diagram is a circle, It's like which diagnosis is this thing fall under? And basically, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's like, how are we going to get me back? So I'm on some different medications that play well with the ketamine and with my anxiety and with my ADHD. And I feel like a different person, thank God, today. And I may never be someone that can walk this mortal coil without a medication that I take in the morning to help me with my brain chemistry. Better living through chemistry. I often feel like I want to get it tattooed. I don't think I have to go that far, but I live it. But I also know that I have to take a holistic approach to it. A pill I take is not going to change my life. Doing ketamine is not going to change my life. It's the things I do with it. Talk therapy, writing in my journal, meditating, and mindfulness. Those are the two hardest ones because they, like you said, they work. I don't want to say they work as a glacier, like turning the barge in the ocean at a glacier's pace. It's just that it takes time and it's unfucking comfortable to get curious about why. Okay, I'm sorry. It's like I say something and then I remember what comes up that made me want to say that. My father and I aren't technically estranged, but we don't speak on the regular. And I've shared about how his behavior can affect me on this podcast before. And there was a certain text exchange that we're on a group chat, me, my sister, and my dad. And I don't know, maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, like he was texting my sister and I about this thing that he was doing, and with pictures and name dropping and all of this crap. And I found myself just getting so mad. And underneath that mad is just so much hurt. Like there's never once a, how are you doing, daughter of mine? How is your son doing, who is technically my grandson? How is your husband doing, who just lost his mother and lost his best friend a year and a half ago? There is not anything like that. And so like Tamra, like Shannon, like Heather, without the medications that I was previously taking, my inner child gets into the driver's seat and sees texts like that and is like, oh God, I'm going to cry. This man doesn't care about me. This man does not care about his child. And then underneath that is, what is it about me that makes me so unlovable that no one wants to ask how I'm doing? So I was humbled this week by the fact that it's like whenever I see my dad in real life, or there's something, like a chunk of a day that he's like texting us, like the fact that I can lose sight of who I am because of that when I see him or when he's texting me, it's so fucking humbling. It's so fucking humbling to realize that after the fact. And my job now is to continue to look at why. My job is to look inside of myself, get curious, and flex that muscle that's going to require me to soothe myself in that moment, because I am never going to get that from him. I haven't. I won't now. He's too old and he's too far gone. He has his own mental health stuff. He has his own struggles. And I'm humbled. That's all I'm here to say, is that I'm humbled and I'm sad. I'm sad that I still knowingly or unknowingly give this man power to affect how I feel about myself. And it's going to require doing some hard work that I don't want to do, which is getting mindful and getting curious. And, it's been a week of that. And so watching this episode this week, I watched it about 3.5 times. Man, it just really makes me grateful that I know I have choices, but at the same time, so do these women, and they're not taking them. They're not making those choices. And it's upsetting. And it's just the irony of it all that Jen is the one that's most financially strapped. And she seemed to have the most insight into these women and what makes them the way they are. Heather, Tamra. And she knows herself too. She knows herself. She knows. Wild. I
So much
love watching
clarity
this show.
from her. And she and
Completely.
Gina both were just like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
Heather, you're an asshole. Tamra, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make you just sort of face that. You don't have to
Yeah.
change it, but I'm just going to make you face it.
Yeah.
Which is, they're not used to it.
And like just to pinpoint, just to not pinpoint, but to kind of wrap up what I was saying before, the space that I was in this week, nothing could fix it from the outside. Nothing. Not new clothes, not new phones, not a new car, not a new anything. Nothing. Nothing will change this. On paper today, I have the life that I never thought I would have, beyond my wildest dreams. And it still doesn't take away, at 52 years old, it still doesn't take away the fact that I still can get hurt by what my dad does or doesn't do. So, it's just the truth.
It is. But I think that the hallmark of evolution on that front for me is how long I spend in the hurt place.
Yep.
Like it used to consume me. It used to dictate how I moved through the world for weeks, months, a lifetime. But now there's pain and it's acute, but it doesn't last as long and it doesn't affect my existence as much as it used to. And that's I don't know if it'll ever go away. I don't know if it should ever go away.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
It's a parent, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
And they didn't do what they're contracted to do, in my opinion. So I don't know if that that initial flash instinct, because I'm always shocked and amazed. I shouldn't be anymore.
Exactly.
After all these years, but I'm like, oh wow, what a creative way to completely disappoint me and break my heart and humiliate me and all the things, But I just over time spend less time, in the big book, it talks about how we do not wallow in self-pity. It doesn't say we don't have self-pity. It doesn't say self-pity doesn't exist. It just says we don't wallow in it. And wallow is a big, gross word,
100.
wallow, you know?
Wallow.
It
Yeah,
doesn't mean we don't have
totally.
it, feel it, be affected by it. It's just like, just don't live in it, you know? So I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, I don't know. I'm so sorry. And I relate and I know that
I know
feeling.
you
And
do.
it's like, it's so real. And it doesn't matter how adult anyone gets. It's just that particular tender spot is just always ripe for,
Yeah,
you know, that particular poke to cause pain.
totally. My sister has been doing hardcore mindfulness work for
Mm.
well over a year now, maybe even longer, maybe 2 years. I'm not sure. But I want what my sister has because she is able to be unrattled by him. And we're on the same text thread. We grew up in the same house, different relationships with our different dynamics between me and my father and my sister and my father, you know, like, but I want what she has in that she's not sent to the depths over his behavior anymore. And part of why I don't see him is because it takes me a long time to bounce back from seeing him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't want that for me, you know? And yeah, I can say like, God damn it. You know, like I've had so many fucking conversations in my head where I have fantasized about telling him about all the money he fucking owes me for all the therapy I've paid for over the years. Will I say it to him? I don't know. I haven't yet.
Well, and
Do
as
I
my
want to when I'm
former
mad?
therapist would say,
Absolutely.
he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. You're right. He doesn't
It
care.
will, again, it will only be one of those instances where I expend all of this energy and
Yep.
investment in someone who just like will just hear the Peanuts teachers talking at him.
Yep.
Wah, 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 wah. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Or he'll come to me or he'll come back to me and say, it'll be like, well, he'll make it about him. It'll be about how like, well, what about, you know, me or whatever. And it's like,
he'll
again,
Heather Dubrow you and
we'll
say, I feel
exactly.
used. You
Yes.
know, like
We'll-
what?
we'll
You
have-
took me for a mammogram and you feel
Right.
used?
Exactly.
Oh,
And
whatever.
yeah. And this man has access to the same things I do and is in a 12-step room and goes to meetings and yada, yada. And it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care. I swear I should put that up in quotes in this booth somewhere. He doesn't care. And the he can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares. At the end of the
Right.
day, no one cares.
Right.
I have to care about myself, and that's it. So everything comes back to Bravo, and these women remind me of what I want and what I don't want. This is
Yeah.
The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 18, Episode 15, Double-Decker Drama. Heather and Tamra really are pieces of shit.
Hey, and I love that they're aligned, and I love that it's going so poorly publicly now.
just-
It makes it really.
Me too.
And I know that I will pay for this, you know, whatever. I shouldn't feel this way about that, but I do. What can I say? In this episode, I was glad to see that these two villains have aligned and are being exposed and not tolerated anymore.
No.
So I'm happy about it.
And again, the Bravoverse, or at least the Reddit on Reddit, was like, Heather and Tamra are trash. It's just that Heather has so much control behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know?
But
There
she's
was-
losing it now because now they're like, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and say this on camera.
I'll look for the post that someone put on Reddit. Someone made a post on Reddit in the Bravo Real Housewives sub. Can't recommend it enough. I had so many preconceived notions about Reddit for so many years, and I find it to be my absolutely favorite place for discourse. It's just fascinating. My point is, apparently there was a producer that got fired because of Heather. It was like they go or I go, and they let go of that producer. And I'll put it in the show notes. I'll find the post. I'll put it in the show notes. And yeah, it's gross. She's gross. She's rich. She's
She is.
rich,
I mean,
and she has a lot of
Gina-
power.
Gina even said it in this episode. She's like, she tries to control everything.
Yeah.
She tries to control when I can have my feelings and how big they are and how long they last. but she can have her feelings and have them last for eternity. And like,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and I feel like, of course, that permeates every area of her life. She feels, yeah. So
I don't want to be her. I don't care how many millions of dollars she has and that she has a podcast office that I would love to have. I don't fucking give a shit. I don't care.
yeah,
I don't think she's a nice person and she's not someone who I could rely on if I needed a safe space or a refuge.
no, it seems like an empty existence. It
Mhm.
feels very sterile.
And she's such a full hit, man.
Oh my God.
She
so much
bringing
of
up
that going on.
those paparazzi pictures yet again.
Oh my
15
God,
episodes
she's
in.
insane.
She's insane.
She's insane.
Oh, so we're back in London. We're having montages of them starting out their day. It's the day after the dinner where Shannon left and she was behind the bars and Tamra's being Tamra. And I didn't take notes on every single montage.
This was just sort of, it's all vamping up to the episode. Emily and Shannon's basically saying she had a hard time shaking off the last night and she's done explaining herself to Tamra Judge. And then we go to Tamra and Katie in some like warm stone chairs that looked lovely. Katie asks why Shannon won't just sit and talk. And I'm just like, I mean, because Tamra is she's so, what's the word? She's in courtrooms, they say like objection badgering. It's like, I just feel like Tamra is badgering. She's not there to listen or have a conversation. I think Shannon is doing the right thing by getting up and leaving.
I agree
Tamra
with
is just there to like curb stomp her.
I agree
and watch
with
her
you.
bleed.
Completely. I thought about this too. Why can't she just leave? There are certain personalities, like my dad. I can't just get up and leave.
Mm.
Like if we were having these conversations that we were having on text message, like, well, they actually weren't conversations. It was all one-sided. It was all just him. I would have splattered verbally had these things happened in real life and not on a text. I would have. And I know what it's like to be around someone that triggers your stuff so much that you do act the way Shannon does. And Tamra knows what she's doing. For her part, she's not just fanning flames. She's fucking lighter fluid and kerosene on top of something that's already fully roaring.
Yeah, she says we've been in this dynamic for 10 years.
She's
so
got
she
a
knows
part.
full well what pushes Shannon's buttons, what, Tamra could walk away, but she never does.
She never does.
She just antagonizes and whatever. And then they start talking about everybody's money again. They comment on Shannon's spending, and Katie says, if I'm struggling to pay bills, why would I get plastic surgery? It's like, if my boyfriend offers me a facelift, or Shannon didn't know they were breaking up. John Jansen didn't, like, this is not real, like, I don't know. It's just so, and also I call bullshit. I bet if you were broke, you would still get plastic surgery. I just bet. Like, this is what Orange County does to people, and there but for the grace of God go you guys. So congratulations on, like, whatever.
Oh, just.
And Tamra's so mean. Like, Katie was like, I've been there, I've been in like financially strapped when I was a single mother. And Tamra goes, well, you weren't 60. And I was like, oh my God, you guys are so mean. And yet no one's picking Shannon up to say, like, let me take you to a financial advisor and I'll help you start looking at this. Or let me get you into real estate classes so you can start, like, nobody's helping anyone. It's just like,
it's awful.
Talking shit as they relax on a jade chair.
That chair did look very comfortable.
It did. It looked amazing.
Then we pivot to Jen and Gina at a spa in a different room.
Well, first we have Heather busting into breakfast.
Oh, that's right.
When she just tears in and she goes, hi, good morning. I don't like how things ended last night. I just want to talk. So let's just like fucking talk. It was so weird and aggressive and terrifying. And so Heather, basically saying the energy behind it was like, I'm going to lead this conversation. You can shut the fuck up. But like, I'm here. And so what the audience is seeing is that I'm showing up to talk to someone who I might have hurt last night. And yeah, Shannon just says, we had a discussion at the beginning of the year about rebuilding trust. And I'm blown away by what you did last night. And Heather, chicken shit that she is in her confessionals, is saying, well, Shannon put it out on the radio, so everybody already knew, so who cares? And I'm like, well, but you still don't get to break her confidence. You can ask her and say, like, hey, you've talked about this on the radio show now. Is it cool if I mention this in front of the group? But like, you don't just get to break someone's confidence. Like, you don't just get to. And Shannon didn't mention the bloody picture on Jeff Lewis's show. She didn't. She did give some things to Heather in confidence that Heather just completely violated.
And then for her to say in her confessional, Tamra had already told me about what she just this is okay. Ramona, you need to remember you are watching a show. These people may or may not be real friends. They are coworkers. But still, that is gross. And when I have had jobs that require me to work with other people, I think that there is, there is an understanding that you're going to be respectful of one another, ideally, and the fact that just Heather's just I don't understand how she can watch this show and not immediately run to therapy.
Because she's rich enough to she can just buy new friends and it's all empty, but it doesn't affect her somehow. Her soul doesn't crave.
Can you imagine living like that for a day, even?
No, but sometimes I wish I could be like a robot, just a rich robot. That seems lovely, but you also miss a lot,
You do.
And Heather again brings up did you ever think about just paying John Jansen when it dies and go, it's like she already offered to pay him. You guys are either not paying attention or whatever. And then Shannon has a moment of old Shannon where she freaks out and goes and gets her papers, which are all these notebook pages torn from a tiny notebook. But it does add up to $61,000. But this again, as I mentioned on the podcast prior, you can't do this when you're in a relationship. If you start adding up every dinner they took you on or every time I traveled to go to a wedding for their friend, it's like when you're in a relationship, that money's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry for Shannon and I'm sorry for John Jansen, but you guys both were in a relationship and you spent money on each other and now you hate each other. But this kind of accounting to me was that won't hold up in court and it's irrelevant. You just gotta, it doesn't make it fair that John Jansen is suing her for $75,000. But that's who you dated for 4.5 years. Is a guy who's willing to put his time, energy, and money into doing this to you. So,
Jesus,
sorry about it.
Then we go back to Jen and Gina, and they're confused with Heather saying that she felt used. Gina asks, and so do I, what does it have to do with you? What does this have to do with you, Heather? What does this have to do with you? Gina doesn't know what's going on with Heather, brings up the mammogram and why Heather was upset about it. And then she says that she heard Heather say that she was at Neiman's, saw the price of Jen's dress that Jen wore to Shannon's tea, and told Tamra what the price was. This was shown to us in a flashback when they were in the Sprinter van. And she says, I can't remember if Gina or Jen said this, you start learning who people are the more time you spend with them. I think it was Jen that said that. Jen is really disappointed, and she's coming to terms with the fact that Heather is also two-faced. Tamra, she's getting very clear on, abundantly clear. She's reached her bottom with this in this episode.
Yeah.
And then realizing, too, that Heather also is just a wolf in sheep's clothing, a wolf in designer sheep's clothing.
But it's
that she got at Neiman Marcus.
Hilarious to me, how effortless Heather tries to make her life appear.
Yep.
But it's not like the dresses at Neiman Marcus have the Price is Right price tags on them, where there's a big sign that says $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
Heather had to spot the dress, go over, pull, because at Neiman they tuck the tags in, for the aesthetic of it all. She had to pull the tag out, look at the price. She's a ridiculous person. That's a ridiculous way to spend time. But congratulations. Who cares?
Right. And yes, it does sound like Ryan is the one that funded the dress.
Yes. And also, if that's how she chooses to spend $2,000 of her $6,000, she will only wind up in more financial trouble. So you can either help her with that or let her, bottom out. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Heather especially. Heather with your 10,000 homes. either like it's just so ridiculous to me that this is something that is consuming Heather's time and interest. It's really pathetic.
I mean, maybe she's doing it to avoid thinking about something else in her life that she can't face. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to speculate on what that would be.
I think,
But like,
again, everybody just wants the attention off themselves. And I think the fact that Heather continues to bring up Disneyland paparazzi pics indicates to me that there's some truth behind why they took those pictures, which was to combat rumors of Terry getting his dick sucked by a hot nurse. So I don't know, just saying.
just saying.
It's all, I don't care. Nobody cares. Heather's the only one who cares, which makes me think where there's smoke, there's Terry's dick.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm a child. All right.
Yeah. I mean, we've already kind of talked about the fact that because we're bouncing back between all of these people in their various parts of the spa. Katie and Tamra talk also about the dress. And Katie says that Jen called her to tell her that she felt badly about the dress being $2,000, but that Ryan said that that she should keep it. And so, I wrote, did Ryan pay for it? Who cares? Tamra brings up that she should not have talked about the FBI at Katie's dinner party. And Ryan's business. Oh, go ahead.
But she goes, I shouldn't have talked about the FBI. And Katie goes, what is that? And Tamara's like, oh, well, I regret talking about it before, but I'll talk about it again now.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, Tamara.
Right.
Okay.
And, Ryan's business partner is a bookie, allegedly. And it sounds like the casinos are sending Ryan on what are called junkets, which my grandpa used to go to Vegas a lot when I was a little kid, and he would get to go on junkets. But he was very hyper responsible with money. Like, he was not like a high roller, let it ride, blah, blah, blah. Like, I wish that I had learned more from him about financial planning and all of this stuff. But he was like extremely financially conscious, but he also liked to go to Vegas and gamble. Like, that was his fun thing, And so sounds like they're going on junkets. That's all I got. It's not anything, I don't know. Katie's confessional, she says that she wants Jen to beware. Like, yeah, we know. She knows. And then we go back to Gina and Jen says that Tamara is not capable of being a friend. And at the end of that scene, I think she was in the confessional, she's like, at what point am I the idiot?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yes, Jen. Yes. At what point do I realize I am Charlie Brown and Lucy is going to pull that football away from me every fucking time? It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me.
I agree. But I also just, in the, spirit of gentleness, like, you can't know that until you've fallen on your ass 15 times. Because it's like, Lucy won't do that again. Well, she did it twice, but the first time was an accident. The second time was a joke. This has got to be... Now she's Lucy, the Lucy I know. And it's like, but Tamara, Jen said she keeps abusing her trust and then offering blanket apologies. And this pattern is unacceptable. And God, I loved where it landed her at the end of this episode.
Me too.
It was so beautiful.
It was artistic. It was art.
Then we go to the hotel lobby where the Duchess of Corona Del Mar is hanging out capes and tiaras, which would have just, I just found it mortifying. It's so embarrassing to watch these women represent America in a foreign country. I just wanted to die. But they go on their double-decker bus tour and they wave at passersby and then they can't hear the tour guide. And then Gina just goes, I'll talk about something interesting. And then says to Heather, the whole mammogram thing, I just don't get it. And she says basically she feels bad about how Heather felt that day, but reveals that before they went for the mammograms, Heather had sent a text saying she does not want to talk about her family history. And the 39% risk factor is a direct result of family history. So you put your friends in a really tight spot, and they all say they're sorry. They misunderstood. They heard cheering, so they thought she was okay. But had they asked, you're putting them in a really narrow needle to thread right there, where it's like, you can't talk about my family history, but you have to ask me how my mammogram is, where I'll report to you that I have a 39% risk factor, which is a direct result of my, family history, which I told you not to. It's like Heather is just, she's a Riddler. She's ridiculous.
She's
she
making
did
up
say,
the rules on the fly.
yeah, and it's not about that. She said, I didn't want to talk about my family, but I'm happy to talk about me. And I was
Oh,
like,
we know.
of course you are.
We're aware. We're
of
aware.
course.
Right.
Shannon reiterates that, she assumed that Heather was fine because they'd heard the cheering from the room where she and Gina were. And Heather says, you can couch it however you want. And I'm like, they're not couching it. They're contextualizing it. It's different. The context clues indicated you were fine, especially because you didn't come out stricken or saying like, hey guys, I'm freaked out. You just, whatever. Anyways, Heather says, nothing changes the moment when 4 women sat in a room and did not ask me how my test went. It's, again, she's sitting on the bus in London with no breast cancer. I just want to reiterate for everybody's edification. And Gina, I appreciated her holding her feet to the fire and saying that one moment was so upsetting that you sat on it for a week and brought it to a televised dinner in London, And I was like, ooh.
And then for the audacity for Heather to say, I let it go last night. You're the one bringing it up now. I was like, you are what? You don't know. That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
But for her, it is. That's the level of control freak she is. It's like, I'm done with this now. I did talk about it, and now I'm done. And you're bringing it up, and now I'm mad. And Heather says, it seems like you're angry with me about it. And Gina says, I'm not angry. I'm trying to figure out how to be a friend to you.
Yep.
And I thought that was really articulate. And there is no way to be a friend to someone like Heather. It's all anticipating her rules, which is an impossibility. You will inevitably let her down, and then she will punish you, get you fired, whatever she chooses to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So Heather brings up the Disney pics again. Well, wow, I found this ironic because you're the one that, went off and told someone inconsequential, Katie,
Katie goes, that was me.
That was me.
Sitting right fucking next to her.
Right
God,
there,
Heather's
right.
such an asshole.
And then Gina brings up Watch What Happens Live about Gina's house. And, I can see where everyone's coming from. And yeah, Emily would have stuck up for her. And Gina knows that she doesn't have Heather Dubrow money. She knows that. She's not an idiot, but it's like, it's true. I just, they're coworkers. Heather's not anyone's friend.
And this is where the fight devolved into absolutely ridiculous Bravo bullshit, where it's just like, you guys, we're talking about Disney photos and a Watch What Happens Live segment called Shady Whale. At a certain point, the Shady Whale said, whose house would sell for the least amount of money? And Andy Cohen said, like, Gina's. And Heather didn't say anything to contest that. And if this is what Gina's mad about, I'm just like, you guys, this is getting ridiculous.
It is.
If the Shady Whale is going to bring down a friendship, then like there wasn't really one there to begin with.
Heather ending it with, in her confessional, you're bringing it up now when you needed a win. The fact that she's framing issues as something that you can win or lose is so chilling, haunting, and telling. I would never, if my friends brought something up to me about how my behavior was affecting them, I would never think that they were looking for a win. I would never approach someone to with an issue, looking to get a win out of it. Okay, maybe my dad, but I know it would only be, I would know that I was being toxic and not healthy if I was looking at, I would know what I was doing before I go into it like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I would know I was going in to hurt him, not to, but my point is that in this situation, that the fact that this is how Heather frames it is terrifying to me and it's scary and
well, and then
shocking.
Yeah. And she's like, this is exhausting. So basically she just shuts it down.
Mm-hmm.
And Gina, once they all get off the bus, Gina just says, like, it's not worth it. She tells the other girls, like, it's not worth it getting into this. She doesn't give a shit. And Heather goes, what was I supposed to say? I don't know what her house is worth, the fucking bitch. I was like, oh my God, the Shady Whale brought you to fucking bitch.
Disney
Disneyland Picks brought you to fucking bitch. You're unhinged. You've gone way off the rails here if you're being brought to calling a human being a fucking bitch because of a Shady Whale cartoon segment on Watch What Happens Live.
Wowie,
Yikes.
wowie.
Right?
So the group split. Half goes to Camden Market, half go to, I can't remember the street they're on, the bougie store street. I said, fuck this kind of candy, give me C's.
Right? They tried the Queen's chocolate or whatever, what she used to like, and it was something like
Violet.
lavender rose bullshit. And I was like, that sounds terrible.
It doesn't sound good to
No
me.
wonder nobody's happy in the royal family. Get some caramel, be a person. Yeah. And then Shannon, Gina, and Emily and Jen go to take an old fashioned photo. And that was a lot. But we did get the statement from Jen or Gina where they just said Tamra and Heather together are the worst. Because they were talking about how they're both just being nightmarish human beings right now. And then there was a moment in the jewelry store
Which, before we go on,
yeah.
sorry, when people are, and tell me if you agree with this, like they are being the worst on this trip, which means I could theorize? No. Speculate? Okay, either one. Thank you. I didn't know theorize was a real word. When people are acting their worst, when I act my worst, it's because I am in either a lot of fear or a lot of self-judgment, a lot of self-hatred, and I'm trying to, I feel that I'm not in control of my life, or I wouldn't be that afraid. So, this could mean the fact that their behavior is so egregious is that they are feeling threatened by something so much that they have to act like utter assholes, like not just regular assholes, like their top tier level of asshole. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it Heather really still is deeply bothered by Katie and the Disney Picks and Gina, and Tamra is I don't even know what, but she's anyway. I don't need to go off. It's just something that they're hiding something. They're scared. They're in a lot of fear, or they're not, or they wouldn't be acting like this.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah. It did make me laugh in the jewelry store when Tamra approaches Heather and she's like, this is how the girls are with you, Heather. They're like, and where were you January 6th? And I was like, I didn't even think about that. Where was she? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. She wouldn't leave her mall houses. But anyways, yeah. And this is where Gina comes to the conclusion, like, I'm not going to try it with Heather again. She's a control freak. She dictates when I'm allowed to have feelings, and that's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And she makes me feel like if I do have feelings, then I'm doing something bad to her. And that is the most, like you said, chilling revelation. And it's so true. If someone turns your own emotional experience on you as an insult to them, it's like, that's not my feelings.
That's something
are my
diagnosable.
Feelings.
That's something diagnosable. I don't know what it is, but that's something diagnosable.
It's not good.
It's not. It's not good. So we wind up at dinner. We are now at dinner. And they start by toasting Shannon. And Jen asks Heather point blank if her dress was a problem for her.
I loved her for that. Everyone's like, happy birthday, Shannon. And Jen just goes like, hey, Heather, I have a question for you. Was my dress at the tea party a problem for you?
And did you call Tamra to talk about the dress? And Heather says she went to Neiman Marcus one day. She saw that it was $2,000. And she's only getting $6,000 a month. And I was worried about you.
Please.
What?
But you didn't call Jen to say, I'm worried about you. You called Tamra to say, look at this bitch bot.
Tamra says Heather was concerned that Jen felt like she had to wear $2,000 dresses to be a part of this group. And Jen rightfully reminds them that last year when she was wearing knockoffs, that too wasn't okay. And Emily in her confessional says that Jen's trying to portray like a higher lifestyle than she's capable of, and that's not okay. And I don't get the sense that I think she's just Orange Countying. You know what I mean? Like,
also, everyone is. The whole reason anyone wears labels is to demonstrate their wealth, you know? Like, Classic OC status seeking.
Just grasping at straws. And I don't get the sense that Jen is trying to like keep up with the Joneses. I really don't think that she's out there like, oh, I have to wear this or no one's going to accept me. You know, I don't think I don't get that.
No, otherwise she wouldn't have a sense of humor about the fact that she wore knockoffs and got shit for it last year. It's just, I think it appears that Jen has never had to manage money before and she's just not doing a good job, you know? And they could help her with that or support her in getting help with that. But instead, they just are telling her why her tea party dress was a condemnation.
And Jen says, listen, if you were worried, you should have said something to me directly. And Heather agrees with that. She gives a very anemic apology in quotations. And then Jen starts in on Tamra, and she says that Tamra wants the women to know that Jen has a piece of shit for a man. That's basically what Tamra's whole crusade is. And Tamra, again, does her version of what she considers to be an apology, which if anyone out there listening is confused about what an apology is, it's not that. It's not what Tamra does. Go ahead.
Because she says, like, I did laugh that Jen launches into this by saying we're in this pattern of we get so close and then you go ballistic on me. And Tamra goes, I don't go ballistic on you. And the editors cut in like 3 screens of Tamra calling her a bitch and yelling about Ryan. And Tamra's apology is basically saying like, well, I'm sorry, but I just had to get it out. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so immature. No, you don't. That's the whole thing about choosing to be an adult on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. You don't have to get it out.
Nope.
You can vent to your husband. You can vent to a therapist. You can vent to your friends. You don't have to get it out in Jen's face. Because Jen says, like, you talking shit about my partner, don't you know that hurts me? You know? And of course Tamra does. And I think Jen's just getting to come to terms with that on this trip. Sad.
Yeah. Oh, Shannon asks Tamra about the Alexis text, and the one that she showed Gina at the end of last week's episode. And she says that she didn't bring it up to anyone in the group and was surprised. And Emily asks, listen, if you're overanalyzing Shannon's every move, why aren't you doing the same about Alexis? And you too, Heather. And Shannon says, stop talking about me, Tamra. And Tamra says, stop talking about me too. Flashback to the whole ego conversation they had in the very first or second episode. And then Tamra says, I'm not the one who has such a big ego that I'd pay $75,000 because I don't want to look bad. What a fucking asshole.
I think she said that I wouldn't pay $75,000.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not the one that has such a big ego that I go out and spend that much money. She did the exact same thing. Like as soon as the season started, she got the brow lift and the peel that she was posting on social media everywhere, where she looked like that meme Pepe. And then she just loves to fucking throw low blows. Like she's a level
Shannon
of
says it. She's like, you know what? You're just cruel. And Tamra goes, oh, shut up, and puts her hand up. And then Tamra goes, I'm done with you, bye. And then Shannon goes, maybe you buy. And I was like, oh, no.
I mean, it's true. It was her dinner. Like, you go.
Yes, I know. But maybe you buy was like, oh, God, it sounds like a Muppet trying to have a conversation. And I did think this was interesting. Shannon said in a confessional, she doesn't know what's motivating Tamra, but she is trying to ruin this trip. And so far, she's like batting 1,000. She said 100, but 1,000.
And she says that Tamra's main goal is to hurt her.
Yes.
And it's true. She is. She's out for blood. And
they're in a way, they're both kind of right in this moment, because Shannon says Tamra's main goal is to hurt me. And then they cut to Tamra, who says, I'm tired of Shannon's victim act. And then they cut to a split screen of them saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. And I was like, good.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. They go back to the hotel. I don't know. The whole texting their partners, I'm naked. How quickly can you get here? Thing. I don't think that Shannon I don't know. Do you think that Shannon felt left out of that dumb ass game?
I think she shouldn't have, but she did have that like mopey face on, that like sad mopey face. But who cares? It was
I
like
know.
5 seconds and it's cute and funny and who gives a shit? But then Emily did sort of like rub it in. She's like, I didn't I didn't mean to make Shannon feel bad on her birthday. She goes, sorry, you can text Archie. And I was like,
so
oh
gross.
God, don't do that.
That was so
Just
gross.
leave it alone. It doesn't have to be anything. But
It
like,
doesn't.
yuck.
It doesn't.
And again, if anyone ever wonders why people stay in bad relationships, it's so that you don't have to field comments like that. It's just like, that's gross and lame.
So lame.
And then Tamra just confirming her place in the asshole Hall of Fame.
Impulse control. Yep.
Runs down the hallway ringing doorbells of this 5-star, like glorious hotel. And again, could not be more embarrassed that these are the Americans roaming that city at this moment in time.
This is a 55, 57-year-old woman doing this. This is a woman who's deep into her 50s.
Oh, it's so
meaning
painful.
She knows I would expect that from children whose lizard brains are still in the driver's seat. Tamra's lizard brain has been delizarded at this point. She has a prefrontal cortex, and regardless of what diagnosis she gets after she sees someone who's qualified for however long it takes.
Her diagnosis was that night?
Yeah.
Drunk.
And
That's
selfish.
It. She was drunk and she doesn't care about anyone else. And,
that's
the outcome. And she rang every doorbell.
Low
I was
rent,
just like,
man.
Oh my God.
She's so fucking low rent. She's
Yeah.
so low rent. The next morning, Tamra says that Shannon's victim mentality is no longer working for her. Okay. Shannon and Gina arrive at Jen's room, and she shares that she's not okay with her and Tamra's behavior.
Yeah, I was just looking at, there was a moment before where Tamra and Emily were at the juice stand, and Emily had a confessional where she said about Tamra. Emily said, there's no compassion there. I don't understand the animosity. You can be disappointed in her. You can have your opinions about her drinking without continuously berating and humiliating her. And that makes so much sense to me, but it just would not land with Tamra. She just was like, no. So they're at an impasse, obviously. But yes, then Shannon starts showing her receipts.
Well,
and
wait. Before, no. I hate to interrupt, but like when Emily says to Tamra during that scene that Tamra needs to be the bigger person, that is the hardest thing for me. One of the harder things for me to do in living the way I want to live, which is being responsible for my behaviors and not blaming other people for my reactions, et cetera, et cetera. Like the reason why I'm in therapy still is because I need help to be the bigger person. I need help to not let other people's behavior, regardless, again, of where it lands on the cosmic scoreboard, none of it matters. None of it matters in my personal life and in the world at large. There are people walking around that get to do whatever the bleep they want all the time without any checks. And as someone who's one of their major triggers is like, it's not fair or it's not just, and it takes a lot of work. Or Tamra is not interested in being the bigger person ever. It's being right versus being happy. And I don't mean being, I mean, and for me, being happy means I'm able to not let my serenity, mood, of the way I'm walking through the world that day, that someone gets away with something egregious, that like I don't suffer because of it, because my reaction doesn't matter. And I don't know if Tamra will ever get that. It's a hard lesson for anyone to learn.
She doesn't want to get it.
She doesn't want to.
It's her life force to feed on people who are suffering.
Yep. So that was just something that struck me about that conversation.
Yeah.
So we go back to the hotel. Shannon says it bothers her that Tamra talks about Jen and Ryan, and she's also sick of being accused of shit when Tamra is also doing the same stuff. Like, okay, yes, again, welcome to being a human being in the world. It sucks.
Well, and then Shannon follows that up with the text showing this text from 2022 saying that she's asking her friend's husband if he'll do a background check and then sending proof that the background check has been initiated or completed. Mm-hmm. And that starts to send Jen over a very satisfying edge.
Yeah.
And I did love Shannon says, like, we're with about the background check, she's like, we don't stoop to this level because that's not who we are. And Gina goes, this is who we are. And I was like, this is who we are. And Jen says Tamra's behavior is weird and obsessive and that she has to use all of their lives to make her own life relevant. And I was like, that seems spot the fuck on. And Jen says, she's like, I'm a better person than her. And I would rather have what I have than be, as she refers to Tamra, literal fucking trash.
Yep.
And then she storms off to Tamra's room with producers in tow. So this feels completely like spontaneous, unplanned. And I was like, real reality TV, it's happening. And she walks in on Tamra and Heather gossiping. And I love Jen's first line. She turns to the stylist who has a hairdryer in her hand. She goes, will you turn that off? And it was not mean. It was just like, I'm here on business.
I'm here on business. Yep.
And then she just went straight forward. Did you do a background check on Ryan? And Tamra goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. And Jen goes, you did. And then Tamra dug her own grave right here and said, swear to God on my kids' lives. And I was like, wow. And Jen is like, I already saw it. And Tamra goes, well, show it to me. Then Tamra just starts shrieking and denying and clapping. Like she's literally trying everything. She looks like an absolute maniac. And then eventually tries to get off on semantics, saying, I didn't pay for a background check. And Jen's like, I didn't say that. And she's like, well, I didn't hire a private investigator. And Jen's like, I didn't say that. You did a background check on Ryan. And like, whew.
Yeah, it was ugly. She swore on her kids' lives.
That was and so readily, so easily. And she knew, you could see in Tamra's body language that she was caught. You could tell it was true, especially because when she starts denying it, Jen didn't have to explain anything. Like if you really don't know about something, you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? What background check on who, when? But Tamra obviously knew she'd done it. But before she copped to it at all, she swears on her kids' lives. At that point, I'm packing my bags and moving out of her house too. If I'm one of her kids, I'm like, whoa, I'm not safe here.
I just wrote, oh my God. Oh my God. The things that she is okay with she scares me.
She is scary. That's
scary.
A good word.
She's not safe. She's not just safe. She's not just unsafe. She's dangerous. She's a dangerous person. And I think that swearing on your kids' lives for something like that on a reality television show is just about as diabolical as it can get. But she didn't learn from her lawsuit with Jim Bellino where she had to pay $500,000. I'm not comparing these things. I'm just saying that, like, she is willful. She's willful. She's willfully toxic.
By the way, you bring that up, and it's like Tamra was saying before how careful she is with her money and how she just puts it all into retirement. I'm like, no, you don't. You gave away $500,000. You gave it away because your mouth is so out of control, and you've done nothing to check it, obviously, if your first instinct is to swear on your kids' lives to something that you know is false. Yikes. And I love Jen at the end. She says to Tamra, she's like, you need to fucking grow up and leave my family alone. And in the slightest, like, she really rode the line here. And but she did it somewhat expertly. She just says, I just moved into Ryan's house. My kids are with me and good and happy. Leave me alone. I want no part of your bullshit. You attack everyone. And then she turns to Heather and goes, the only reason she's your fucking friend, because she's in front of you right now. And then she leaves. It was amazing.
It was incredible. And I believe
she goes, I'm a better person than you'll ever be, Tamra. And
it's true.
Tamra goes, okay, bye. And she goes, yeah, bye, bitch. And I was like, oh.
It's true.
So satisfying.
Broke, divorced, having issues with her oldest son. Her partner is clearly got some stuff going on, and she is still a better person than Tamra, Judge.
It's true.
I am a reluctant Jen fan, but I do believe she shows it like it is. And I do believe that there is space to say that she does have she takes personal responsibility. She is living with Ryan right now so that she doesn't have to be homeless. And it's really hard to stomach that. It's really hard. But in every other aspect of her life, it does seem like she's really trying, and she's really like, she's earnest.
Yeah.
And I love seeing that.
Yeah.
It is such a refreshing thing when you compare it to like the manufactured, cultivated, controlled Heather and Tamra.
I mean,
You know?
Heather's like manufactured, cultivated, and control. And Tamra is just like a drunk Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
Like she's just out of control.
Yeah.
And the two of them together are the worst, as they
They
said.
are.
Like it is really, that was quite something to behold. But
Yeah.
like that was what a great ending. What a satisfying
It was
ending
so
to this
satisfying.
episode.
Completely satisfying.
And seeing
It's the perfect way
Tamra
to
with her
say
like
it.
hair all crazy and no makeup and natural sunlight. I was like, yeah, good.
I loved
Exposed.
I loved it. I loved it all. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Friend, what else did you watch this week?
This week I watched Love is Blind, which is really interesting.
I need to see that new one.
It's fascinating to watch these kids talk about, like, they talk very openly about their families, their upbringings, their relationships with their parents, and they can articulate where they sustain damage, what they're doing to try and, but of course, that's all talk. And then they get into some actions that are like, oh dear, okay, well, people are people. But it's just a really interesting show. I find it really fascinating just to watch what people are willing to overlook, when people hit their limits with red flags, and when the pressure of like committing for life is on. I think people get out of things faster and see things more clearly, I don't know. It's just an interesting experiment. Yeah, I watched that. Oh, and then I watched this incredible documentary on Peacock, I think, called Anatomy of a Lie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about this TV writer who wrote on Grey's Anatomy, and she faked cancer, faked cleaning up bodies at a mass shooting. Like, she's insane. She's completely insane. And again, this is where my self-righteous anger comes in, and I'm working through it on my fourth step. She was not held accountable by the show, by Shonda, by the industry, nobody. She was allowed to leave and say, like, it's time for me to part ways with Grey's Anatomy. It's like, oh, because you shaved your head, wore a port on your chest, told everyone that Anna Paquin gave you a kidney. Anna Paquin never gave her a kidney. Like, she's crazy. And everyone was just like, just quietly get rid of her, as opposed to being like, hey, in this industry, this will not be tolerated. So I have feelings about it, but it's really well done. I highly recommend.
I can't wait. I can't believe I haven't
a chilling story.
heard of it. Yes, I heard of that story, and yeah, you're right. It should have caused major headlines when that all went down. And I don't remember. I think that there was one, maybe like Vanity Fair, the New Yorker did like an article about it.
There was a Vanity Fair article and like an Ankler article, and that was it.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
You're
I only
right.
saw it just because that stuff is on my radar, like, writer, Hollywood,
yeah, totally,
bad behavior stuff. But it's fascinating. Well worth watching. How about you? What did you watch?
I kept forgetting to bring up last week that I started this season of New York finally, and I love it. I don't care about the storylines at all yet. Like, I just don't care. I don't know. I don't care yet. It's 3 episodes in, but I love the clothes. I love Raquel. She's so interesting to me. I remember her as a model, and I remember she looks very familiar to me, and I'm sure that like she was in magazines and stuff when she was establishing her career in the art world, because she does look familiar to me. I just think she's so glamorous and stunning, and I just love this this show, New York especially. Again, it's like flipping through an issue of Vogue that I don't have to do anything. I just get to watch it. It's everything I loved about Sex and the City, just visually, and everything I love about a good fashion magazine visually. And I could spend hours just looking in Jenna, like just watching Jenna walk in her outfits, Raquel walk in her outfits. I love everyone's clothes except for, Aaron and Sai. I kind of am like, I'm not always on board with what they're wearing, or Bryn, but I love, it's so good. And that to me, it's
Excited.
just
I don't even know who
satisfying.
Rachel is. I can't wait to start
Raquel.
watching this. Or Raquel, sorry.
Yeah.
See, look what happened. Vanderpump
Yeah.
Rules has ruined that name for me.
And then
Raquel.
is there oh yeah, and then there's Rebecca Minkoff, who's very problematic. I did appreciate how Bryn tried to bring up Scientology. Like she and Jessel are like, both in PR. They're like, how do you want us to answer this? And I was all, oh, that's a good way to ask that question.
Yeah.
And her
What'd she
answer was
say?
very unsatisfying. I think she said no comment. She said no comment, And then Jenna caught some heat this week because, Scientology, well, don't get me started on Mormonism or Scientology. I understand that all religions are started. I understand. I feel my opinion is that Mormonism, which was started by a literal snake oil salesman, and Scientology especially, I don't think that they should count as religions. I don't. I said it. And I will back it up with whatever you need that people need to like write an essay. I'm just saying that like Scientology is a cult. It's a cult. And I don't think I'm alone
It's
in
hard to
thinking
find
that.
evidence to the contrary at this point.
It is. Yes,
It's
there's
crazy.
plenty out there. Exactly. And so my point is, I watched The Real Housewives of New York. I finished season 6 of Summer House, watched a few episodes of Below Deck Sailing Yacht, and I can't remember what else.
Have you been watching Salt Lake?
Oh, yes. And Salt
Okay.
Lake, yes, which I love. And just Lisa Barlow just is so, she's just so wildly unsatisfying as a person. Bronwyn, whatever about her, I'm not a fan of everything she wears. And I know that she's the one that's the self-proclaimed fashionista of the season. But I really liked the episode, especially last week's episode, when she had the conversation with her daughter about her dad. Wow, I could like relate,
It was heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
And her language was so profound. She said something to the effect of, I thought if I gave you everything that you wouldn't need or want anything else. And that was a miscalculation. And I was like, oh. She's like, it was enough for me, but I see it wasn't enough for you.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. It's such a good show. Wow.
It's really good. Yeah.
It's really good. It's just really interesting. So, yes. And I need to start Potomac. It's just
oh yeah, I haven't started that either. God, there's so much out there. I gotta get on it.
I know. I think the other night I wanted to, and Josh wanted to go to sleep, and I didn't want to start it without him. So we'll probably watch it. Maybe we'll watch it tonight. I'm not sure. So yeah. And what was your antidepressant this week, friend?
I had a few, which is nice to report. Last night I was sharing with you earlier was the Groundlings 50th anniversary party, and I've been involved in some way, shape, or form there as a student or a teacher or a performer for 20 years,
Wow.
20 plus years now. So it was just kind of like amazing to go to this event. It was held on the rooftop at the Jonathan Club in downtown, and it was a beautiful, clear night. And it was just really interesting to see people all together, that it was kind of like a this is your life moment. And it's also lovely to see how many people I've remained in touch with over 20 years. Like it was valuable. And then just like good kids are also my antidepressant. So my niece and nephews, I'm just obsessed with them. I talk about them all the time. But my little nephew has been sending videos of the dog, and you can hear him like giggling in the background. Giggling. He's 14 and his voice is all low, but you can hear him go like, like watching the dog. And it brings me so much joy, and it's so nice to feel connected to them. And then my niece sent me this incredible text. She listens to the podcast. What's up, Clara?
Hi, Clara.
And she listened to last week's podcast or the week before whenever I spoke about my friend Gavin. And she's like, I listened to the podcast and I'm going home right now to put on my Michigan sweatshirt and wear it around and think of you. And I was like, she's
so
just like,
sweet.
it's so thoughtful and wonderful. And like, what advanced emotional beings these little creatures
Totally.
are. And the last one would be your son, Leo, who before we jumped on gave me some sort of drone tutorial that I'll never understand. But like, it was so, talk about earnest and sincere and enthusiastic. Like, I don't care if he spoke gibberish to me. Like, the energy behind it energizes me. And like these are all good people. I got a lot of contact with good people this last week. So those are my antidepressants.
Oh,
How
I
about
love that.
you?
He was so excited to talk to you. I was
Oh my
like,
God, I was thrilled. He goes, best $20 I ever spent on this drone. I was like,
God.
kid.
oh my God, I know.
He's so cute.
He's very cute. He is actually one of my antidepressants this week. We went to a fall festival at his school yesterday, and it was just, it was lovely to go. And Leo just, shot off and went out and hung out with his friends. So Josh and I, even though we're at a school and a school event, we can still socialize with other adults. And that to me is like the most precious thing right now, is socializing with other adults. So it was really fun. So yes, my family is definitely one of my antidepressants this week. And then also literal medication is my antidepressant right now. I started taking 2 new things this week, and they're both helping so much already. And I'm so grateful. Better living through chemistry. It's a hard time right now. The world is really strange. The election's coming up. It's just such a hard time to be a human being navigating the world. So I'm grateful for meds, and I'm grateful for my family and friends. Yeah. Yep.
Same.
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone, thank you again so much from the bottom of both of our hearts for listening. We really appreciate it. And we're just so thrilled that you're enjoying it as much as we're enjoying making it. Please rate, review, subscribe. Make sure your downloads are turned on. Pass on the podcast to your friends if you could. And be kind to yourself. I'll try to take that in too. I'm not just going to say it as a nice sounding thought. I've got to walk that too. I've got to do it too.
Easy does it, and it's just a practice. Expect to fail, and
that's good.
keep trying.
Okay, keep trying. Yeah. Deep breaths and water at the bare minimum. Deep breaths and water. Yes, and thanks again, and we'll talk to everyone next week.
Yes.
And
Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Ramona and Margie are obviously not doctors and do not provide medical advice. Their content is intended to be used for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be, should not be interpreted as, or used as a substitute for medical advice or a diagnosis of any health or fitness problem, condition, or disease, nor a recommendation for a specific test, doctor, care provider, procedure, treatment plan, product, or course of action.
My mom isn't a doctor.